Hey everybody, it's your newest edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news and a little opinion too in 15 minutes. I'm your host, Dr. Wonderful, joined by my co-host and analyst, Kevin Bayne. How are you doing, Kevin, today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I mean, hey, free agency starts tomorrow. So
Yeah.
it's going to be big. It's going to be a big week for the Commanders, I think. And so that's what we're talking about today. All things free agency and, of course, how free agency might impact the draft. So let's jump into our first segment, Kevin, where we're going to discuss some of the offseason moves that Washington did right before the start of the free agency period on Monday. And Washington re-signed offensive linemen Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti,
hmm
defensive linemen Dietrich Wise and Drake Jackson, kicker Jake Moody. They also signed Traylon Burks as well, and defensive lineman Shy Tuttle. They also did finally release Marshawn Lattimore, and in what was considered a bit of a surprise release, they also released center Tyler Biadasz, who later went on to sign a 3-year deal with the Chargers this past Friday. And
Yeah.
while we're still waiting on the Laramie Tunsil deal, one is expected, and it's not expected to be of the same drama as a Terry McLaurin situation last off season. So Kevin, tell us about all these signings that kind of happened rather quickly, but also kind of last moment because it was like literally a couple days before free agency started. So tell me what you think about these signings and what you think it does for us in terms of financial flexibility and what our desires are in free agency.
Yeah. I like what they've done here so far. Bringing back Wiley and Allegretti. I think that gives you continuity on the offensive line. Yeah, the offensive line that group improved late in the season. Keeping guys who already understand the system matters, especially with a young quarterback. Allegretti in particular, he really does gives you the versatility inside, which it is great. Um, on the defensive side, yeah, Dietrich Wise he's a solid veteran, uh, solid veteran presence, and then Drake Jackson, he's a younger kind of upside move. In my opinion, neither one is like a splash signing, but both give you rotational depth on the edge, and you definitely need that in today's NFL, where pass rushers rotate constantly. As far as Jake Moody, it's I don't know, right? Dr. Wonderful, we've discussed it before. Kicker position consistency has hurt us, has burned and haunted us for this franchise for many years now. Um, it's at the point where I don't even know what to say. Obviously, I know he's got ties to San Francisco and Peters, and I don't think he played bad for us. So if they believe that he's the guy, and they want to lock him down, I don't have a problem with that. I'll move on to the center. I was kind of shocked. I think that was kind of surprising. I just didn't think it was going to happen. It wasn't even on my radar. I think it caught a lot of people off guard, especially since he turned around and got a pretty good deal with the Chargers. But I think that tells me too that the front office believes that they can upgrade there or go younger. And we'll see what happens. It should be interesting to see. And then, of course, the big domino still hanging is like you said, you mentioned the Laramie Tunsil. If that deal gets done like everyone expects, yeah, that's a massive upgrade at left tackle, and it instantly stabilizes that offensive line. The fact we're not hearing about any holdout drama, that's a really good sign. As you mentioned, it's not supposed to be like the whole Terry thing and a big holdout, which is a great. Overall, I'd say we're Washington. They're being methodical right now, not flashy yet, but they're positioning themselves to be aggressive when that free agency officially opens tomorrow.
I agree. You have to have depth.
Yep.
And so why would you allow some of your good depth players to leave? particularly if you feel like they contributed. There's no reason to do that. I mean, every team needs depth, and that's what I kind of saw is them seeing value in their own players and their own depth. And of course, more depth will be signed, but this was securing some of that depth when that certainly makes a lot of sense. Regarding Jake Moody, I mean, this is not the end.
Yeah,
They didn't tender him a contract because if they tendered him a contract, it would actually cost them more than the contract that they just signed him to, right? There's nothing, no field goal kicker's contract ever stops them from bringing in another field goal kicker to compete, which
yeah,
is what I need. I need Jake Moody to win the job or the other guy or him to lose it due to the other guy.
yeah.
But what I don't need is, oh, you're gonna come in and you're just going to be the kicker.
A la last season.
Right. Like we don't and the year before that. I
Yes.
mean, the
Yep.
year before that we
Yep.
signed a guy and then he got all hemmed up in some outside criminal activity stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And that's what started us on our roller coaster. So I hear Jake Moody thing, but I don't that's definitely, in my opinion, not the last move they're gonna make
Yeah.
um, at kicker for sure. Um, and you might not even see anything at kicker in free agency until like the second or third wave. People get cut, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
So I definitely. But speaking of free agency, which is like you said tomorrow, Kevin. These all season moves, like you said, look like it's also to get ready for what we are assuming is going to be an active and aggressive free agency period for Washington. We don't know because the Washington themselves doesn't leak anything, but everything from insider reporters like John Keim and others are suggesting that they're going to be aggressive. And so free agency tomorrow. Here's what I'm going to challenge you to, Kevin. Okay. And your answers will tie into our last segment. Okay. So tell our listeners who are the dream free agents you want Washington to sign and who are the free agents Washington will sign. Why and why?
Okay. Um, so I thought about this, and still a guy that I've really been wanting, and that's going to be a dream guy. I'm going to say Trey Hendrickson. Um, I think he's one of the best pass rushers in the league still. He's proven that with his on the field. Uh, yeah, his play speaks for itself. Another one that I'd say that's up there would be Khalil Mack. Um, these guys are still a little bit older, but they still got gas in the tank left. They're the type of guys that make offenses game plan around them. They're game changers, and anytime you can get a playmaker like that on your team, I'm all for it. And we especially definitely need help at that position. Now realistically, I think Washington will target players who fit the new culture and won't completely break the cap. If we're still talking about a realistic free agent signing, a player for me that makes a lot of sense, and I could be saying his name wrong here, is Adafe Owe, out of Chargers. He's a really intriguing pass rusher. He's still young. He's extremely explosive off the edge. After a midseason trade last year, he really started to put things together and showed he can consistently pressure the quarterback. What I like about him is that he still has upside. He's not just a veteran stopgap. He's a player who could grow into a long-term piece for the defense. Um, Washington, we need more speed and disruption on the edge, and Owe he fits that profile perfectly. He wouldn't necessarily cost the same kind of money as the elite names in free agency, but he could still give them a high impact pass rusher. Entering to his prime. And then I also say another realistic move would be a veteran offensive lineman like Jonah Williams. Protecting that quarterback has got to remain priority number one. Um, that guy, he can give you flexibility across the line. He's played guard, tackle. He can play a little bit at center. He's versatile. He can move around. So many ways you can use that guy. And then last but not least, I'm going to say Etienne, Travis Etienne out of Jacksonville. Um, he's a running back who really makes sense for us as a realistic free agent target, in my opinion. He's quietly put together a very strong 2025 season. He rushed for over 1,100 yards, scored 7 touchdowns. He also caught nearly 300 yards through the air. That's the kind of dual threat production you want from a back. What makes him appealing for us specifically is his versatility. He can be your lead back on early downs, or he can catch passes out of the backfield. He's explosive enough to break games open when given space. Um, Teams often rotate backs, but Etienne he's shown he can handle a high workload and still be effective. From a scheme perspective, a guy like Krosky Merritt in the passing game would benefit from a back who can do more than just run between the tackles. Someone who can help stretch defenses and keep plays alive with receiving ability. Uh, we have the cap flexibility, but also, I think we want impact players. And ETN maybe isn't the biggest name, but in my opinion, he's a proven producer with a big playability and could elevate the offense in ways a lot of straight committee backs won't. Uh, Likely scenario is Washington. We're building this roster with multiple quality starters rather than one huge splash, and honestly, that approach might make the team deeper and more balanced.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. What's funny is you mentioned Travis Etienne, and the first couple times I heard this, I was like, man, that dude's still playing? Because I was
Yeah,
thinking about his dad, right?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, oh my God, he's still playing? I mean, he was a great player,
yeah,
right? And it didn't even transfer yet, and how great it is. I mean, hey, he's out there on the market. I wouldn't
yeah,
be mad about it. Another name that I'll sneak in there, if he winds up getting released, because the Vikings are signaling that they'll release him if they can't trade him, and that's Grenard, who was who was the Pro Bowl defensive end there, and they're just releasing him as a cap casualty.
okay,
They got to get off some money. The
right.
Vikings are in a hole, and they got to get off some money. And he would be not just also because of the Durante Jones, but I also think you would be getting him again for a few more good years, as another one of these guys. But truthfully, I expect Washington to go after two defensive end. So like, don't be surprised if there's a little double dipping
Yeah, and
going on.
Minnesota's had what top defense here the last couple of years, right? Yeah, one
Yes,
of the best defense
yes,
in the league. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, all right, Kevin. This is going to play great into our third and final segment. Let's continue your challenge. Washington has signed four of the free agents you mentioned, whichever ones, it doesn't really matter. But they have signed four of the free agents you mentioned.
Okay.
Now, who of the following top 10 prospects still left on the board at seven? These are the people who I think might still be there at seven.
Uh huh.
Are you picking? Okay, why and why? And here are the players who are left at seven that I think will be left there.
Mm-hmm.
Ruben Bayne,
Agreed.
Caleb Downs,
Uh huh.
Mansour Delane, Jeremiah Love, and Carnell Tate.
mm-hmm.
So, who are you picking at seven
Uh
of these one, two, three, four, there's five that I gave you. One, two, yeah, three, four, five. And Carnell Tate is like a fringe, just like right outside the top 10. Like many have him mocked at like 11.
yeah.
Right. So who are you taking? You can only take one.
I'm not even gonna flinch. I'm gonna go Caleb Downs. Um, to me, I think he's one of the safest defensive prospects in that entire class. He's instinctive. He's physical. He can play all over the secondary. Um, he's just in today's NFL where offenses spread you out. Having a safety who can cover, tackle, and disguise coverages is incredibly valuable. He's the kind of player who can become the quarterback of your defense in a few years. Um, but for me,
Hmm.
he checks every box. He gives you the versatility, the leadership, the
Yeah.
playmaking ability in the secondary, and if we're serious about building a defense that can compete with the top offenses in the NFC, adding a player like Downs, I think that'd be a huge step in the right direction.
I hear you. And I don't disagree with you. My name was drawn to him as well.
Okay.
But the only reason I would change my mind is because Ruben Bayne might have some short arms, and that
Mhm.
might force him to move inside. We seem to be wanting desperately to move on from Deron Payne.
Yeah, hopefully.
If Ruben Bain can show himself possibly to be interior, I mean, he's got sub 30-inch or 31-inch arms,
Yeah.
right? Never has a person with arms that short been impactful on a defensive end. It
Uh-huh.
has been 27 years since someone with sub 31-inch arms was even drafted in the first round, like
Mm.
1999. Like
Wow.
people did stats on this. So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But he is a player, right? And if
Physical.
for some reason he had to move inside and you're now I don't know the nuances and the ins and outs of
Yeah.
people's tackles and
Right.
but he's a guy that I think depending on what you think of him and where you want to play, he might be very, very difficult to get away with either. The front seven is so important.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that's just my thoughts there. But thanks as always for your analysis, Kevin. We always know free agency will determine to some degree what Washington does in the draft. AP has always said he wanted optionality in the draft, so addressing as many holes on this team as possible in free agency will free up those options for AP. But I don't want just any free agent. Right. Some of these guys, at least three, need to be high end impact free agencies. Like
Yes.
that's where I'm at.
Yep.
And since free agency is next week, Kevin, you and I are going to come back next Sunday to review all of the Commanders' free agency signings because we think it's going to be explosive, the first wave of free agency. And we're happy to kind of get back to a more common schedule, and we'll update you on all our upcoming episodes and when they're coming to you. But for now, I'm Dr. Wonderful. He's Kevin Bayne, and this has been your newest edition of Commanders Wrap, where you get all your relevant Commanders news in 15 minutes.